guys, welcome to another episode of Forging the Path. I'm here with someone I just met, Dan Hendershot. I'm saying your last name right.
Correct.
Okay, good. So the connection here is Johnny Ferreira, and he's been on the podcast twice, I believe. So shout out to Johnny. Thank you so much for the connection and the introduction. Dan, tell us a little bit about how you know Johnny and your career. You give us your vocation first.
Sure. So I'm a career Army officer. I currently serve. I'm an active duty Army officer. Way back in 2000, I enlisted in the Wisconsin Army National Guard and traversed through a commissioning program. Went to the regular active duty Army, the federal side. Stayed there through the rank of captain, and then departed. Came back into the Wisconsin Army National Guard. Which is really a militia. It's a military organization. It's a stateside. The governor's my boss. And I went through a whole bunch of field artillery positions, really all of them through battalion commander. We'll probably get into some of that later. And I met Johnny Ferreira when he was a staff sergeant somewhere around 7 or 8 years ago. It might even be more than that. And he's a sharp young man. And I was probably in my late 30s at the time, and just honed in on him right away because he was such a sharp guy, and I wanted to take care of him. And I was probably a major at the time, and I can help him in that role as a organizational administrator or leader to make sure he got put in a good spot. I wanted to take care of him, and we just had this unusual relationship. Not close by any means, not personal by any means, but we kept in touch mostly through digital means, a text here and there, maybe a phone call. And then, fast forward these 7 or 8 years that I've been kind of watching his career path, and he's now, I believe he's a first sergeant. So he made it, so to speak, right? He'll probably be a sergeant major, more than likely. But holy cow, you go from staff sergeant to master sergeant in a relatively short period of time through different leadership roles. He's just a great young man. He's probably not even young anymore. He's probably pushing 40 himself.
I was going to say, man, you're a young man.
Yeah, so I'm 45. I'm almost 46. So career-wise, I'm near the end. I'll probably depart the service at about 27 and a half years total time served. And I've loved it. It's been a humbling career. Traveled the world, like you may have heard in different commercials over the years for the Army, kind of marketing themselves. You really do those things. Lived in Dubai for a year. Was in Iraq twice, Korea, and so on, right? So, and my family was really an active participant as well.
Yeah. Where did that desire to join the Army first come from back in 2000?
It was before that. I was wanted to be a Marine in the worst way, and I wanted to fly attack helicopters in the worst way. As a 17-year-old high school student, I went through a military and processing scenario for the Marine Corps. Saw a recruiter, the whole 9 yards. Yeah. Was about to jump ship and sign the paperwork and go to basic training, and I didn't because of a girl. So I'm not with her anymore. But life-changing decision. And then what made me join finally, like formally, and sign the dotted line and go to basic training and all of these things, and whoosh, 25 years goes by, was my college roommate returned from basic training. He went in the summertime, so it was a freshman, sophomore year, and he came back to the dorms, and he was sort of a skinny guy, which, whatever, malnourished, lived on candy. Yeah. And I knew him, and I was like, well, if you can do it, then I'm done. I dropped what I was doing at college. I was at UW-SP, Stevens Point, and went to a recruiter, and I said, hey, it's your lucky day. Let's go. And I was in boots just a couple months later.
Are you serious?
Yep, that was it.
Wow. Okay. We got to make sure that we probably should say this at some point in the episode. Any opinions that you share are your opinions.
Yeah, I'm here in a capacity as an active duty lieutenant colonel.
Yeah.
I work for the Wisconsin Army National Guard. I have bosses, whether they listen to this or not, who knows. I briefed my public affairs office. They know that I'm here. Yeah. So when there are some subjects, perhaps I'll just preface with that it's my opinion and not that of the organization if it has to go there. It's no big deal. We're all good.
Cool. Okay, so tell me a little bit about your experience in the Army. Did you see combat?
So, yes. I deployed to Iraq as a first lieutenant. So I think I was 25 and a half at the time. So pretty new. I was considered an individual augmentee in 2006, meaning I deployed by myself. And my role was to go into theater and replace another lieutenant. What actually happened is I became an extra lieutenant. So it was a field artillery unit that was out of Fort Sill at the time, Fort Sill, Oklahoma, which was my first duty assignment. And I flew out there with a couple of other individual augmentee officers, and I got off a C-130 aircraft in Mosul, Iraq. It was a logistical support area, or LSA Diamondback. A lot of folks will cue in on that one because it was somewhat notable. And so I get off, and this young lieutenant came ripping across the tarmac with a John Deere Gator, like the 6-wheeled thing with it. He's got all of his personal protective equipment on, a helmet and so on, and he's ripping across there. We throw my duffel bags in the back, and he introduced himself. I was kind of like, oh my God, it's pitch black. And so then we go ripping across, and he gets me to where I'm going to sleep that night. It's called a containerized housing unit. And he drops me off there, and I have all my vest, my helmet, all my shit on. And I have my weapon and so on. I didn't know what was going on. He's like, well, we'll see you in the morning. And he's like, oh, we get mortared like all the time. So I'm like, okay, this is great. I slept in my PPE, my personal protective equipment, that night in this crappy like shipping container with a bed in it. And the rest is history there. As far as like seeing combat.
Jeez. Welcome to Iraq.
Yeah, it was crazy. But what a great story and memory, I'll tell you. The combat, I'm an artillery officer, so I'm vested in indirect fire. We're not close to the fight, so to speak. But this particular deployment, it was organized as an in lieu of mission, meaning we had gun trucks. They were outfitted with, Humvees outfitted with armor and machine guns on a turret, and other large trucks that were moving goods. So we would take 100 semis driven by third country nationals from Turkey and so on, and for every 10 semis would be one gun truck. So we would have a platoon of about 10 gun trucks, and we would take 100 semis outside the wire, leaving in Mosul. This is Mosul. We would drive all the way north to a place called Harbor Gate. We would drop off those semis and then return. And we would do that all at nighttime. So probably a 4 to 6 hour mission most times. The extent of like the combat, I've never had to fire my weapon at anyone or anything like that, but certainly party to driving over an IED. Like I remember seeing it visibly. There was a point in time where an IED had gone off, but I was fortunate in that I was not directly involved in anything like that.
Yeah.
And I would think that that's more the norm than what you may expect.
Of course. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's why I ask. Hollywood tells us one thing, but you got to talk to the guys who were really there.
Right. And then my other missions in Iraq, my other mission in Iraq was in 2009, and I was a company-size commander, so about 120 soldiers at the time, if I remember correctly. We were assigned to Baghdad to run a prison.
Yeah.
So we ran an internment building, not like for like a morgue or anything, but the Navy SEALs, the SF guys, they would bring these enemy combatants off the field. We would take them from them. We would process the prisoner, and then we would put them into our jail. So what an experience that one was.
Wow.
Too. It was. I remember so much of that one because it was so unusual.
Yeah.
I would have never guessed in a million years that I would be a gun truck guy, let alone a prison guard. Interesting scenario.
Yeah. Well, what are some of the greatest lessons you've learned from your career thus far in the military? I mean, what's been the takeaways for you that would apply to anybody, whether they served or not?
You will be busy. and then you will have these profound sections of time where you're not so busy and you have to stay engaged. So I think a takeaway from me now with 25 years behind me and as an officer, slightly different. Officer, think administrator, think leadership role, right? You got to read. If you don't read and you're not, like, even podcasts. Now, I mean, I listen to podcasts. I don't listen to music anymore. I'm listening to podcasts.
Yeah.
But reading's really important to stay in tune with what's going on. Professional articles is really a go-to for me.
Gotcha.
There's a lot of really smart people in the military and these think tanks
Yeah.
that have a tremendous amount of information to share that's very valuable.
What are some good podcasts that you can let us in on?
War on the Rocks.
War on the Rocks?
War on
Okay.
the Rocks is a pretty popular one. I would characterize it as a think tank, a mediator, and then he's able to bring in some very high-powered, articulate, intelligent careerists that have a lot of insight on any number of topics related to the military, politics, global issues, and so on.
Cool.
Another one is All In. It's called the All In podcast. It's billed as the #1 podcast in the world. It's recorded on Thursdays each week, and it publishes on Friday. It's billionaires. So the mediator's a liberal mediator, billionaire. And then there are 2 conservative billionaires. These are self-made folks. One of them's an immigrant from India. And then they have on high-powered, I mean, Elon Musk, President Trump. I mean, you name it. They have so many people. And their perspective on the world, from politics to money to issues, you name it, it's so much different than the average Joe. I really do value what that particular podcast puts out each week. And I listen to that one like clockwork on Sunday afternoons.
Sunday.
Yep.
When you're just chilling around the house or something, or when you're doing chores?
Yeah, mowing the grass usually.
Yeah.
So other things, to answer your question, though, fitness and health.
Tell us about that.
Yep.
You're a fit guy. We were just talking with the studio guys a little bit about some of your diet nutrition tips.
Yeah. So I'm 45. I work out 4 days a week, 5 if I can. Generally speaking, those are workday requirements for me. So it's either slightly before I would go in the office or at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I don't really have a locked in routine, but you got to run. For me, this is for me, right? I have to run, and I have to lift heavy things and set them back down.
Yeah.
Lift weights, right? As I've gotten older, I've tempered my expectations on my body, and I don't go for, max repetitions, max lifts, or anything like that anymore.
Right.
I do a lot of rubber band work. Kettlebells have been introduced to me the last few years. Push-ups, body weight stuff, and that's where I'm at. But it's a must. If you're a young person, get in the routine and just keep going.
Yeah, and don't stop as you get middle-aged.
Don't stop.
That's a huge key
Yep.
for. I know so many guys who just, their best days of working out, running, lifting, whatever, were in high school and college, in their 20s, and then it faded.
Yep.
I'm like, dude, it's easy then. Like, you got genetics working for you, you've got time working for you. Like, keep it going in your 30s and 40s. That's when you need it way more. It's also when it's harder to fit it in time-wise, so I get it. But I love the kettlebell tip too. I've started doing some kettlebells and mace. Have you ever tried a mace?
No.
Those are fun, man.
I've
Those
not
are so
done it,
cool.
though.
Okay. Yeah. Try, or you or anybody else listening, if you're looking, like, I constantly need something newer. Like, I can't just do the same old routine for much more than maybe 6 months. And I'm like, okay, what else can I do? I'm doing hill sprints lately. First time in probably 20 years.
Yeah.
God, this is fun. Get back into it. I need that change in that dynamic. And besides hill sprints, the other one, kettlebells, and then mace. I got a 15. It's really light. Where you think it's light, then you start swinging it for 5 or 10 minutes. Great for shoulders, great for core. There's a lot of YouTube videos that show different swings you can do with a mace. It kind of feels medieval,
Yeah, sure.
Dude, this was an instrument to, like, bash people's skull in, and now I'm using it for a workout. But yeah, the mace is kind of cool.
I like the idea of running hills.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would do it that often, but I like the idea of it. That stuff, that like high intensity training, because that's what that is. I mean, it'll break you off. That's good for you. I'll also do like a weighted ruck walk.
Yes.
I do that at least once a week, and really that one's more of a mind clarity thing for me.
Yep.
Because if I put on the ruck, and I'm going to go out for over an hour in order to get in some miles. So 15 minutes is a mile at pace. That's my goal.
Yeah.
If you're going faster than 15 minutes, you'll definitely sweat more. For me at my age, I find that faster than a 15-minute pace it hurts the old kneecaps a bit. So
you're speed walking at that point.
Pretty much.
Like,
and then at 35-pound, 40-pound pack, nothing crazy.
Yep.
And bring some water with you. But for me, that's generally speaking a no podcast, no earbuds. It's in the woods. There are plenty of paths in the Madison area, certainly down here in Lake Country. There's a lot. That's Zen for me. Just go think.
I love that.
And clear it out. It's another tip. Like military service, I don't know if this is directly tied to military service, but I'm always on, and I'm always looking for something to do.
Yeah.
And whether it's in the office or if it's at some sort of unit event or it's after work, generally speaking, when I get home, I have 2 boys. They're active. I'm getting into a different uniform, whether it's an assistant youth coach or it's getting my son to a math tutor or what have you. Mm-hmm. It's immediately into another thing, and then come home and it's dinner, right? Mm-hmm. Or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's some activity that's sort of set up in a schedule. I hope I'm not doing any damage to my kids by being routine based, but our routine is always engaged. And there are these breaks in my household where say baseball ends, and it ends every year sometime in July, and you have like 5 days where there's no extracurricular, and it's like the 3 of us sit and we're like, what are we going to do? Like it becomes like a challenge to find something to do because we're so overly stimulated with all of these inputs. And I get some criticism at times, but for me, it's what I like to do. I am doing something all the way up until I go to bed. Whether it's I'll work on some carpentry project. I like old cars. I've got one in a garage in the back. I popped a radiator in last night. Like, it's always something. So, and I have other friends that are in the military that are like that as well. They can't stop. And I don't think it's PTSD related or anything. I've always been like this. So I think it's good. Because if I didn't have all of these time fillers, I have this sinking suspicion that I would be maybe not as fit, maybe not as mentally stimulated, certainly. And I've never been a couch potato, and I hope my kids don't grow up being that way either. Yeah. So there's some like role model thing that I'm playing as well, maybe deep down. Yeah. I want to showcase for them what you could potentially do.
Yeah, Dan, I think you're right, though. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that is healthy overall. I mean, people talk about burnout, and I have an opinion that when it comes to people who get burned out, it's not because they're trying to do too much. I think it's because they're trying to do too much of the stuff that they don't actually love. They're not into it. They're not passionate about it. They don't get joy from it. I know guys my dad is wired this way. I got a friend in real estate who's a mentor to me. He's wired this way. And it's constant. I mean, from the time they get out of bed to the time they go to bed, their day is full, but they love what they do. Yep. They enjoy it. And it, like you said, they might have hobbies for their downtime, a stack of books that they love to read, but they're not the kind of guys who are just going to turn on ESPN and watch that for 4 hours before bed. They're like, no, when I'm done with work, I need something else to do. And they're healthy guys. And what they do, the vast majority of it, they love it. Their heart's in it. And they're not getting burned out. The people I see getting burned out are doing a whole lot of stuff that they don't really want to do, but they're having to do it anyway. Those are the ones that I think get burned out. I don't know if you would agree with that opinion, but that's kind of my thoughts on the whole like work-life balance. Balance is a myth. Just do what you love to do, spend time with people you love, and do a lot of that. You won't. Hey guys, I want to take a minute and give a huge shout out. Thank you to all of our Patreon supporters out there. Without you guys, this show's not even possible, and it allows us to do some cool swag stuff like this mug right here. We're coming up with hats, t-shirts, things like that. But more importantly, we're going to be releasing some exclusive content that's only for our Patreon supporters. You're not going to want to miss that. So if this show has been any encouragement to you whatsoever, you guys got to get on patreon.com/forging the path. As little as $10 a month. Every dollar helps. Go there today and check it out. If you or anyone you know is thinking about buying a home or refinancing the home that you're already in, you got to reach out to Michael Creed and his team today. I've been in real estate for over 10 years now, and I can tell you there's no one better when it comes to the lending side of things than Michael Creed and his team. They take time to get to know every client. They treat every transaction like it's the biggest one of their lives. They give them all the options, educate them every step of the way, and they guide everyone to a really successful closing. We love working with Michael Creed and his team. So, once again, if you're thinking about buying a house or refinancing, you need a great lender, talk to Michael Creed and his team today. You can text them at 262-696-9048. Tell them that Adam from Forging the Path sent you. They'll take great care of you. We all know that real estate is the single best investment. It outperforms almost every other option in the long term. And my wife and I, we've been in real estate for over a decade, and we love helping people sell and buy homes. When it comes to the selling side of the equation, our goal is to help you sell your home for the most amount of money with the least amount of stress. And when it comes to buying, we want to help you find that dream home that has everything you need it to have without overpaying. And our goal is to make the whole process, whether selling or buying, really smooth and a great experience for everyone. So if you or someone you know are thinking about buying or selling a home in the near future, reach out to Zastro Family Real Estate. You can look us up online, or you can call or text me directly, 262-725-2855. And by the way, we're powered by a great company, Realty Executives Integrity. If you're thinking about getting in real estate, or maybe you're already in real estate and you want to take your business to the next level, let me know, because Realty Executives is the best of the best.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I like projects. I mentioned even painting a wall. That'll bring me some fulfillment.
Yeah,
it's odd.
Working with your hands.
But if I have some small project, let's just say that it's painting a wall, we'll keep it very simple. Yeah. At the end of the day, when generally speaking, when my two boys are up in bed, so it's about 8:45, 9 o'clock, the last thing I do is I will go accomplish this little project because I want to do it, right? Then there are some other things that keep us busy. I have obligations to our youth baseball teams, and I like doing that stuff. Sometimes it gets to be a bit much, and then I get frustrated. I think that's natural, and then you just sort of suck it up and do it. But at the same time, when you reflect, you're like, okay, I'm fortunate in that my boys are able to be active participants in a youth sport. They do pretty well. They like it, and then there are other kids their age that maybe have some limitation or an injury or what have you, or their parents don't want to have them participate or can't afford to, or all of the reasons why maybe someone doesn't participate in whatever extracurricular. So from that point of view, very fortunate. And then I reflect that even though this is frustrating, and sometimes it can drive a person nuts with the amount of extra obligations that some of the teams ask of you, and a lot of it's self-inflicted because I volunteer, but
because you love it, it sounds like
it's good, and it's a blessing. It's you're fortunate, because it could be much different.
Well, yeah, and you know that better than most. I mean, like the problems we have here in America with stress and stuff I'll take them. Because I know that some areas of the world don't have hot water. I know that some areas of the world don't get to vote, so okay, I'll take these problems. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. It's not to say that they're not sometimes frustrating, but I'm grateful to have the problems that I have, or compared to, our great grandparents, what they had to endure. So it's a lot of that is perspective. And I also have noticed this when it comes to finding ways to just rest and refuel. Guys so like my dad, contractor, carpenter, out in the field, sometimes he comes home and he's got half a house to remodel. And
Sure.
I can see that sometimes makes him a little bit weary, but when he can come home and get into a good book or something, or like go on a vacation somewhere, that seems to refuel him. Whereas other guys I know, they work a desk job, whatever, 8 to 5. And for them, coming home and working on that car, working with their hands is a little bit more rejuvenating. So I would say kind of a general rule of thumb to guys out there, like if you work most of your workday sitting still, one of the best ways to recreate and rest is move around. If your workday is you're on your feet all day, you're carrying heavy crap and you're sweating, the best way to recreate and get some rest is maybe not manual labor. Find some other hobby that's
Right.
a little more chill. And that would, I think, help a lot of guys just find some sense of like, I love what I do. You're saving yourself from some of that burnout that people talk about. I want to ask you a little bit, because you sent this outline of some stuff, and you a few years ago, like, you went through hell. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much of that story you want to share, but I know that whatever you are willing to share, it would probably be a huge source of encouragement to anybody listening. So I wanted to kind of tee that up for you, and in whatever way you want to share that, and
Sure.
wherever you want to go with that, please feel free.
Yep. I'll tell you that. So the bottom line up front is I lost my wife, Lisa Lynn Hendershot. Her maiden name was Lidke. She was from the greater Marshfield, Wisconsin area. I lost her family. We all lost her due to cancer. She was 42 at the time of her death. She died on May 31st, 2023. So we just got past the second anniversary of her passing. And, I actually reached out to Johnny Ferrer. This is quite a while ago, over a year. And he was doing some interesting social media presentations that were motivating to others. And I've been trying to keep her memory alive by sharing this unusual story. Unfortunately, it's not unusual. It was unusual for us going through it, but and I asked him to keep me in mind if he ever had an outlet for me to share the story. So I appreciate you bringing it up, and I'll summarize it as best I can with keeping it to the poignant pieces. But so I was married almost 19 years to Lisa. She was a fit, intelligent, articulate United States Army Lieutenant Colonel and Black Hawk helicopter pilot. Can you believe it?
Wow.
We had our two boys, Jackson and Logan. At the time when she was diagnosed, our youngest Logan was 8, and our oldest Jax, he was 10. And sadly, Lisa's brother had cancer at the time. So she was 41 when she was diagnosed. But the way it all came up was we were at the University of Texas for an assignment down there through the military. They have these excellent programs, and I was an academic fellow at Longhorns. I wore flip-flops and T-shirts to school for a year as a graduate student. And then we were leaving that experience, and the whole family went. Best year of our life. It was really excellent. The weather down there is much different than Wisconsin, as you might imagine. We had a nice little house with a swimming pool as part of an HOA, kind of a community thing. The kids walked to school every morning. It was only about a block away from our home. It was great. And here we are. We've culminated there in that we have to go back. It was a year gig. And she's standing in the living room. I can vividly see it. And she's just, I've got a sore throat. I've had it for several days. I think I need to get it checked out when we get back to Wisconsin. Fair enough. Back up about 6 months, December of 2021, she got COVID real bad. And we were in the military, so we were forced to get it. The biggest regret of my life was getting the mRNA vaccine. She got it. Anyway, she got so violently ill, she was coughing up material, from her lungs. And it did not look right. But because she was such a healthy young person, we didn't go to the hospital. She got through it. Actually, our whole house had it. I had no symptoms. I went for runs every day that I had COVID. Mm-hmm. It didn't bother me, and my kids were the same way. Anyway, so I connect those dots to the COVID vaccine. But whatever anyone wants to go down that rabbit hole with me offline, that's fine. I'll do that. But so she has this sore throat. She gets a number of tests done with doctors, of course, and there's just nothing. And then she gets the swollen lymph node in her armpit. Goes back to the doctors.
Wow.
And yep, you have a swollen lymph node for sure. You're fighting something. But all other indicators were nothing. I mean, there's just nothing there. So on with life we go, right? The sore throat persists. The swollen lymph node in her armpit persists. And she has a pretty significant cardiac event walking up a flight of stairs. She calls me. I'm at work. I happen to be at a Milwaukee unit at the time. And I was like, you need to go to the ER. She goes to the ER. Had it not been for a smart ER doctor at UW Health, downtown Madison, who said, you're in here for this unusual heart-related condition. Let me run a quick ultrasound at the desk side here. So he does that. He calls in a cardiologist. The cardiologist confirms what he's seeing, and they immediately put her in an ambulance and bring her to a different intensive care unit where they pumped 800 milliliters of fluid out from around her heart. Jeez. It was called a pericardial effusion. We hear myocarditis. Yeah. Pericardial effusion is something similar to that. I'm not a doctor. So she stays there, and they're like, well, what the heck is going on? Later that night, sadly, by herself at about 3 a.m., the doctors informed her that she had stage 4 cancer, and it was all over her body. And that was it. What? And she kept that to herself until I arrived the next morning to just do like a bedside visit. I was with the boys at home, our boys at home, and she informed me, and it's just jaw-dropping. And then, like out of a movie, all of these doctors in long white coats, I was probably 5 or 6 of them, and the lead cardiologist was on a knee or sitting in a chair, I can't quite remember, held her hand and formally announced to her that she had this cancer. And they didn't give any prognosis as to how long it would be. I didn't Google anything on it. I didn't want to know. I know now that it was months to a year was the bill for her.
Jeez.
So anyway, she was a trooper. I'll tell you what, you would have never guessed that she had rampant body-wide cancer for the first 7 months that she was ill. She looked great. She was able to keep most of her body weight on. It's a tremendous thing. She attended all of the sporting events. She cooked hot dogs at football practice at 4th grade for our oldest boy at the time. And she deep dove into faith and reading the Bible.
Wow.
And every morning she would wake up before any of us, 4:30, 4:45, 5 o'clock, somewhere in there, and she would sit in her favorite rocking chair and she would read the Bible. And that was something that was unusual. Our family had been regular churchgoers. My family, my entire life. Her family, her entire life. But never something as regular, visually profound as her. And I have pictures. I have so many pictures. She would just sit there in some sort of peace, right? And she would read. So that was a significant change. And I was always kind of curious about that.
Wow. Jeez. For like 6 months, she maintained health and strength and
everything.
Showing up.
She would go to chemo. We went to Mayo in Rochester, Minnesota, after having an unfortunate fallout with the UW Health system here in Madison, Wisconsin. Nothing, malicious or anything. It was just a professional fallout where we decided we should go to Mayo. It was close enough, so we would spend a fair amount of time at hotels at Mayo. But she was a beautiful gal, and I'll tell you, I like telling people that she was the best looking chemo patient you'd ever see. Just beautiful. And she'd be sitting, and I have pictures of that too. You can only imagine. She's getting pumped full of chemo. It's poison. It's toxic poison. It's shit. And unfortunately, it didn't do anything for her. It was a bridge too far. So let's fast forward a little bit. We're in California. She was given a clearance to travel by our main cancer doc at Mayo, and a great man, by the way. Gave us a lot of hope, but I took it as doses of reality as well. Lisa was very hopeful. Lisa never thought she was going to die.
Wow.
She was convinced that she was going to live. So we're in California, and over breakfast, I saw it with my own eyes. There was some sort of change that went over her mentally. Just something wasn't firing right. And we brought her back to where her sister was. We were visiting her sister, who lived out there at the time, her big family. And Lisa just started shaking uncontrollably, like some sort of fever. And we brought her to an ER at a Navy base. My sister-in-law, her husband's in the Navy, so we went to the Navy installation, and they did scans and all that, and they're just like, there's cancer up and down her spine and her brain. So that was like the palpable shift in how, as a family, we were dealing with things, because we knew then that it would never be the same, and we were going to lose her soon. Mm-hmm. So the kids were there, and I'm fighting back tears. Both the kids were there in the room, and she was still happy. The brain's an unusual thing. I'll never claim to know it all, certainly even tidbits of it, but there's something with it. She was just adorable, and it was the saddest thing you ever seen. So we brought her back to Wisconsin. We got her to Mayo, and that's when the doctor saw her. In a flash, he knew that was the end as far as what they could do medically to assist her with trying chemo and so on, because her brain was saturated in the cancer, as well as her spine, as I mentioned. He said, "Hey, Lisa, do you mind if Dan and I go to the next room and talk about some logistics for a minute?" And of course, just, happy-go-lucky, kind of like a child, really. And he brought me into the room and sat me down, and I already knew it was coming. And he gave me that movie quality talk about there's nothing else that we can do, and we're going to lose her, and it's best that she transfers to a hospice care at your home. And that's what we did. For 7 weeks, we took care of Lisa. I managed a tremendous amount of folks that wanted to come in and visit her. So we had a schedule. I had help. Lisa's sister, Luann, flew in from California and lived in our basement. The kids were immersed in everything. One thing Lisa wanted desperately was to have her children experience this cancer journey. They call it a cancer journey. So they were there for all of it. And there's some hard things I can share, certainly. But we had old friends come in, and her brain was wishy-washy. But she remembered everybody. It's the strangest damn thing.
Really? Wow.
So sometimes she couldn't pull off the name, but she knew them, and then it would come. And okay. And they would just have a ball. She would love having a cup of coffee in the morning. I forgot to mention one of the most profound things. So she gets diagnosed. She's a helicopter pilot. She's a budget and finance professional as well. I'm not saying that it didn't matter and those things weren't important to her. But when she got sick, all of those big important things that we would otherwise consider as grandiose in our lives, they faded almost instantly. And it transitioned to the people and the little things. Yeah, I say to folks that want to talk about her, it was a cup of coffee in the morning and a beer at night, chatting with her favorite people. And so those are the things that hit me the hardest, was to observe what really mattered. So it isn't stuff.
No,
I'll tell you that. She could have cared less about the car she was riding in or what have you.
Wow.
It was always about her boys, and she would talk about that. The saddest thing for me to reflect on is when she would have these flashes while she was in hospice the last 7 weeks. She would have these flashes of rationality. she knew her position. They were only probably under a minute, but when she would have the flash, she would sit and she would observe her condition and her position in life. And it would hit her that she was going to pass, and that all of these people that were around her, because oftentimes we had so many visitors and her kids were there, she would look and she couldn't speak, and it was just profound sadness. And she would cry. She wouldn't cry out loud. It was more of what I'm doing right now, just except she couldn't speak. So that was hard to deal with. And then the brain would do whatever the brain does, and she would be back to this happy-go-lucky, childlike state where there's still some bit of Lisa left in there, and you could have a conversation with her. God dang, I lost my train of thought there for a minute. Didn't know where this was going to go, to be honest with you. But let me see. I'll fast forward a little bit more. The last week or so, she went 7 days without food or water. This is all in our house. So hospice, to my surprise, I had this idea that the hospice nurses would be there. And like somehow they're active participants in your life. It wasn't the case as we experienced it, and I can't speak for anyone else, only obviously what we were going through. But early, they would be once every few days. And then as she got progressively worse, being closer to death, and these folks knew. Like, they knew what dying looked like. They would increase their visits. So to my surprise, I was the one in charge of medicating her. And then if I wasn't there, I had to rely on a strict regimen and only trusted agents to administer the medications on my behalf. We had to give her shots in her stomach. We morphined her up like you wouldn't believe. Fentanyl. I mean, I had like a crack house worth of pain medications right there in our home, and they couldn't get it to us fast enough. If I wanted more fentanyl, if I wanted more morphine, they would get it to our house as quickly as humanly possible. Because from the hospice perspective it's all about keeping them comfortable. Yeah. And they kept pitching that it was all about pain management and that she was in writhing pain. I didn't see it. I just didn't see it. But nonetheless, we continued to administer the pain medications. And last week, she had no food or water. She was just in a bed. It was in our sunroom, just off of our living room. Our boys would go in there. Her mom and dad were there all the time. Visitors continued to flow in. And I'll share just the 2 more points on this and on Lisa. Let's do 3. First, she was far more than just a cancer patient, right? But it was hard to get, for me, it was hard to get through seeing her as that, because it was so deeply profound. And then to manage her life as her husband, it's a responsibility that I wish on no one, to manage someone else's life and end of life. But she was so much more than that. She was the best mom ever, and just a great lady. Probably 2 weeks out from her death, she spent most of her time in bed. Call it 22 hours a day. She wasn't necessarily sleeping, but she was in bed medicated, let's put it that way. An old friend of mine, his name's Jesse, had a infrequent at best relationship with me, let alone Lisa. A military guy. Never knew him to be a churchgoer at all, ever. Never came up. And he asked to do a visit. I scheduled him in. He came down. I think it was 30 minutes or so. I had a chart and a calendar and everything, managing this flow of people. But he came down. She was out for the count. I mean, she was medicated and asleep. And I sat there with him as he chatted with her, as I did with many of the guests. And he leaned in and whispered to her the Lord's Prayer, right? And I know that Lisa's mom and dad prayed with her quite a bit. And they knew she was going to pass. But she started crying. And that was the last time we had any emotional response from Lisa, was when this obscure person that she didn't see recited the Lord's Prayer in her ear, and she started crying. So wow. I'll never forget that.
Wow.
And then I'll leave this topic with, how it all kind of ended. It was quite peaceful. It was May 31st, 2023, a absolutely beautiful morning. I threw on my ruck, and my two boys came with me, 8 and 10, and we went for a long walk with, Lisa had a little, buddy dog, little tiny guy. His name is Rocky. We still have him. And we went for a long walk. Our neighborhood twists and turns like anyone else's. We were gone probably 45 minutes. I came back and I was drenched in sweat. But that was the intent. And we knew that it was close because she's now 7 days in, no food or water. She's been in bed. And I came into the sunroom. Her mom was there. Her dad was just outside the room on the couch. My two sons went and sat with him. They were probably watching the news or what have you on the television. And I plopped down in this chair. First, I set the ruck down. I plopped down in the chair, started drinking some water, and Lisa's breathing was irregular. And it was irregular to a degree where you perk up in your chair. And Diane, Lisa's mom, noticed it as well. And we looked at each other, and without saying anything, we gathered Jax, Logan, my sons, and her dad, Len Sr., and came in there, and she continued this very laborious, eyes closed, but somehow peaceful breathing pattern. We, some touched her leg, some touched her hand, and we watched her take her last breath. And that was it. And I didn't have some sense of relief, but I knew it was coming. I don't know how to describe the feeling, but it happened. Our pastor showed up. He was the first person that we called. We called no one after that. We called no one until he came and gave a final blessing. Really to her body at this point, of course. And he's a young pastor at the time. I want to say late 30s. And I'll be damned if he didn't just start bawling.
Wow.
And I wasn't expecting that from a pastor. They usually hold that stuff together pretty well, but I appreciated it.
Why did you appreciate it?
I just wasn't expecting it, and there was a lot of humanness there, compassion, empathy, realizing the impact that he was overseeing. He was overseeing the death of these two kids' mother who was just sitting there. So, yeah, I'll never forget. I could picture it clear as a bell in my head. So that was it. And I'll tell you, Lisa was a high school standout athlete, lettered in everything. Still have her letter jacket. She went on to play volleyball at UW Oshkosh. And she deployed to Iraq as well in 2009 or 10. And she was a company commander as a woman. This is in 2010. It was called a pilot in command, so she could lead multi-ship missions as the officer in charge. She's flying up and down near the Syrian border in Iraq. And then she has this great life. She has these great kids. And the day before she was diagnosed and had that profound pericardial effusion heart issue, the day before that was so ordinary. You couldn't, the next day was the difference of a completely different, the change to a completely different life. Mm-hmm. But the day before was so ordinary. And that's what I often think about now in reflection is today is going to be a great day. Mm-hmm. And then what's tomorrow?
Yeah.
Well, you never know.
You never know.
And I've experienced that, and I want people to know that you need to take care of yourself as best you can, but man, you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Does, what's, how has all of that changed you? I mean, are you more thankful for the days that you have? Are you frustrated because of the loss you've experienced? What has that experience done for you now, 2 years removed?
Yeah, I'm still frustrated by it. I'm angry by it. They say time heals all wounds. It does get a little better. I try not to dwell on it. In terms of changes that I know have occurred, I don't get worked up about I don't really get worked up anymore, really about anything. From time to time, things will frustrate me, sure, but man, I reflect on that whole cancer journey and watching really the love of my life, right? And this beautiful young person go through hell and then die. And all she wanted to do was be like a fun mom and enjoy the life with her children. I just don't get worked up about stuff. But I'll tell you that my faith has been challenged.
Of course. I wouldn't believe you if you didn't say that. I mean, how do you go through something like that without challenged faith?
Yep.
I mean,
what bothered me most were comments, God works in mysterious ways and, there's a plan. And I haven't seen the good in it yet. Maybe someone will show me someday, but the thought that this beautiful young woman and young mother with two boys who desperately want their mom back, if there's good in that, I'm really hoping to learn what that is someday. Right now, I don't see it.
Yeah.
And it's problematic for me. But sharing our story, and the strength of our two boys, who have really just done a tremendous job getting through it. I don't know. I'm happy that they aren't troubled by it and are having ongoing issues, mental, emotional, and so on. They're strong kids.
Wow.
And I attribute the majority of that to Lisa being a stay-at-home mom for the first 5 years of their life. Well, really, 5 years of their life in total. She raised the kids. She left full-time employment. She hung it all up, promising career to go stay at home until they were old enough to start going to school on the regular. Wow. I don't know many people that make that dramatic decision anymore, but it was the right thing and the best thing. And, in hindsight, you wonder, you can't help but ask, was that part of this plan? Because it seems obvious to a lot of people that, imagine if she didn't do that.
Imagine
she lost
if she
those
didn't.
5 years.
Yeah.
So some of those puzzle pieces fit together nicely. I'm skeptical of the medical establishment. I had no issues with any of the doctors. They're doing their best. A lot of it's guesswork. But those first few weeks where there's just nothing and you're asked to leave, I guess it's reasonable, but I question how it could be. And then all of a sudden, there's cancer all over your body, I guess maybe it's more normal than we'd like to think.
It may be. Why did you say that getting the COVID vaccine was the biggest regret of your life?
She didn't want to get it. She was going to be a holdout as a military member. Mm-hmm. And I personally, we've been stuck with so many shots. I mean, it's not even funny. Mm-hmm. So I didn't care. Mm-hmm. I was like, let's go. Let's move on with our life. Give me the shot. I could care less.
Yeah.
And she was a holdout. And I talked her into it. So there's some guilt there. And people say I'm not supposed to be guilty or feel guilt. But it's God's plan, right? And all that sort of thing. But I do feel guilty there. I will never be able to prove it, and people can call me crazy. But you go from, I've said it so many times already, healthy young woman, 41 years old. Mm-hmm. No health history to speak of. Nothing notable. 18 months after getting the mRNA double shot, Moderna, you get violently ill with COVID, that the damn thing was supposed to, reduce the severity. She gets it violently. Mm-hmm. I got nothing. And she's coughing up material. And then all of a sudden she has a sore throat 6 months later. Mm. And she's deceased as a vibrant 42-year-old human. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me except to connect the dots back to that shot.
Do you know any other people who had similar illness after?
I don't. It's anecdotal based on different podcasts and readings and articles and so on. But there's different congressional testimony that's been ongoing. There was some just a few weeks ago. Are they all making it up? Like, is it all BS? I don't know. I'm average Joe.
But you and I both don't trust a lot of the powers that be. So it does make you wonder. I mean, I wonder how many people are actually truly healthier after the vaccine. We could start there.
Yeah, and there's
didn't prevent COVID. It didn't prevent the spread of COVID.
Right.
It's all very interesting.
It is. It was definitely a worldwide case study in how things could potentially work. Right? Mm-hmm. Follow the leader, do as you're told, and so on. And as a military guy, like I said, I've got so many shots. Whatever. My kids will never get it. I'll never give my kids a flu shot. Mm-hmm. Some of the vaccines that are required in order to go to school and avoid all the fiasco of trying to prove why you shouldn't get a vaccine. Like, I'm not going to deal with that crap. I'm reasonable and realistic. I understand vaccines are helpful overall. And they've provided a benefit to humanity. But they'll never get the COVID vaccine. They're never going to get the flu shot. As soon as I get out of the Army, I'm done getting flu shot. I'm not taking any of that crap.
Well, why were there only a handful of vaccines recommended and required up until 1983? And then all of a sudden, I don't even know what we're up to now. But I mean, my wife and I have to look through every time the doctor recommends the next round of vaccines. Okay, yes, no, yes. It's interesting. We just can't trust anymore.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me, just from like, it's so newsworthy and interesting that you can have these disparate opinions and data sources and refuting the data. Well, this doctor isn't notable. Well, actually, he's the most notable around. And all of these different versions of stories.
Right.
If anything, it's a great story. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, someday we'll get to the truth of it.
It's a fascinating case study in
it is
world history.
It's really that whole era, and then having Lisa in this cancer journey impact my life and our life, my children. Yeah. That's maybe another change. Certainly is just the way that we look at things, and like what cards are we being dealt here? Mm-hmm. So,
well, let me ask you this: what advice would you give, if any? Maybe you don't want to call it advice. Do you have any thoughts? Do you have any encouragement to somebody who's just lost a loved one or is in the process of losing a loved one, much like you and Lisa?
Sure.
What would you say? What would you say to those listeners?
What helped me get through it as an adult male husband and now widowed husband that went through the cancer journey, raising 2 young boys during all of this, what helped me the most was the other people that reached out to assist. Notably her folks, her parents, my parents, siblings, close friends. People came out of the woodwork. Our church provided meals. People wanted to help give rides to baseball practice and things of that nature. Everyone wanted to help. There was this tremendous outpouring, and that impacted me certainly. And my recommendation to anyone who's going through it, whether you're the wife or the husband, and you're going through the obvious or imminent loss, or you just lost someone due to whatever, if it's cancer, if it's a terrible car accident or tragedy or what have you, is you have to lean on the other folks. They say it takes a village to raise the kids, but I think it takes a village to help you keep your sanity about you.
Yeah.
I mean, some friends, they would just come over, or I would go to their house. We'd have a couple beers in the driveway. We would talk about Lisa while my children were in the backyard playing with their kids. 30, 45 minutes, beautiful afternoon, just kind of chit-chatting through things that were ailing me.
Yeah.
It was help from others. It was other people. You got to reach out. If you don't reach out and you just bottle it up, I don't know what will happen because I didn't do it that way, but I can only imagine that it will fester.
Yeah.
So then the other thing I would recommend too is, we hear it all the time, exercise is vitally important. You have to go out and do something. If you're not a gym rat, that's fine. There is a lot of value in finding a place to go for a long walk. If you can put a backpack on, take your kid's backpack, fill it up with canned goods to add a little bit of resistance there, 5-10 pounds. Geez, it doesn't take a lot. And then just get out there and go. There's relief in that. And it also clarifies your mind. That's my experience. Faith is the other part, right? I don't go to church as much as I used to. And I assume that someday the bubbles will level and I'll find more peace with what happened and what we went through as a family. And I still go to church, and my kids are at a parochial school, and it's still a part of our lives. My grandpa was a Lutheran pastor his entire life.
Wow.
Lisa's family, they're devout. They're Christians. They live it every day. And they communicate in the messages that they send on a daily basis. Her father has a daily, it's an email blog essentially. It goes over the things that he's doing for the day, he and his wife, and it always ends in some sort of short devotion. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Every day.
That's awesome.
I pray the same prayer in my head every single night before I go to bed. It's been modified a bit after going through Lisa's loss. But faith fits in there somewhere. If you don't have faith in something, even if you're challenged by it, my pastor in a different city, he once told me, he knows another gentleman who lost his wife. And that guy tells him, I don't know why I keep going to church because I'm so upset and frustrated. And that's me. He's like, but I keep going. So there's that aspect as well.
I think that's so much better than the overly simplistic, trite, though there's a greater plan, heaven gained an angel, blah, 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 blah. I think just encouraging people who's going through that kind of grief to just be like, if you're angry, be angry at God. He can take it. Like, you're frustrated, like, tell him about it. I don't know how he's going to talk to you or interact with you in that place, but you bring your pain, bring your grief, bring all your shit. Like, just keep showing up, because I do think there's something in that I think is good pastoral advice. I like that you're your pastor in a different city shared that story. Like, I don't even know why. I'm so angry at God, but I do. I just keep doing. I think that's what I love about the cross. Like, he suffered with us. He didn't give me an answer for the pain that I see in the world or that I see in my life, but he suffered with me. And that kind of God I can keep coming back to, or at least I hope he'll give me the grace to keep coming back to whatever I might have to face in my life. But I appreciate that about you too, man. Like I wouldn't be as inspired by your story if you were like, oh yeah, me and God, it's all good. Never shook my fist at the sky. Never doubted him for a minute. Never questioned him. I don't buy that when people say that.
Yeah.
I appreciate more when you're like, no, I'm frustrated. My faith is being challenged severely. I'm angry. I still don't know why, and maybe I never will, and I'm upset about that. Cool. Like, that's why we have a book of Job in the Bible, like, why? And we don't get a good Sunday school answer, do we? But we get a God who steps into all of that crap with us and is willing to suffer with us. Yeah, I guess for me, that's why I hope whatever pain I might have to go through, I can keep showing up, and I'll pray the same for you too, man. Because that's honest, that's real.
Yeah, there's a saying out there. Jordan Peterson says it quite a bit. If you're familiar with him.
Oh, I love JP. Yeah.
Life is suffering.
Yeah.
So when I say that to people, I consider getting it as a tattoo. Life is suffering, and I was talked out of it, which is reasonable. It's a bit much, but life is suffering with bouts of profound happiness. Mm-hmm. And you can almost boil it down to a day by day. So I know that my two children are struggling with the loss of their mother. Last night, there's something about getting past 2 years of her passing, and I don't know why. I didn't schedule it this way, but I've had her shoes in our closet for the longest time. I mean, a lot of her things are still in my closet. And I looked at the shoes last night, and I gathered them up, except for a few that, for no reason that I can explain, I wanted to keep. Mm-hmm. I gathered up this big bundle of shoes, and I brought them downstairs. This is at nighttime. My oldest son had he's taller than I am, but he's 12, and he just got done brushing his teeth, and I'm like, do you want any of these shoes? I think I'm going to give them away now, like to Goodwill. Mm-hmm. And they're like the fun boots and stuff that women have. She had so many shoes. And he looked at them. It seemed like 5 minutes, but it was probably 15 seconds. But it was a long time, to my surprise, right? Do you want to keep any of Mom's shoes? And I went and I dilly-dallied over, on the other side of the kitchen, and he just sat there and stared at those shoes. I don't think he had seen them because they were in my closet. Mm-hmm. The kids generally stay out of the parents' room. At least that's how it is in my house. So they certainly wouldn't have been in my closet. And he saw them and just stared at them. He's like, no, I think I'm good. But I could tell that there's something there. So that's his bit of suffering. But I hope that he also found some bit of peace and maybe some good memories flashed in his mind when he saw those shoes. She liked to have fun. She liked to, take them out to lunch and stuff. She'd take them to get donuts after school on Friday, and she'd be dolled up. So he probably remembered those fun shoes.
Sure, yeah.
So I hope that he found happiness there after the initial bout of suffering.
It's not about the shoes.
Right.
Right? There's something bigger there. The memories, what they represent. Man, we don't even have a lot of time left because I kind of wanted to hear a little bit about you said in the email you were part of you were involved with the race riots and stuff too a few years ago. I'm sure there's some fun stories there. Would you be willing to come onto the podcast again sometime in the next year?
Sure. Yeah, I was the commander of the soldiers that responded in Kenosha, Milwaukee, and Madison, Wauwatosa, and others. in 2020, 2021.
Yeah.
So, lots of perspective there.
bet.
Happy to share it.
I bet.
Yeah, I don't know that we would call it the race wars, but we refer to it as civil unrest.
Civil unrest.
Yep. So there will be that spin, of course. I don't particularly think that it was. Well, anyway, I'm happy to come back
peaceful
on.
protests.
It wasn't peaceful. It was they were full blown destructive riots. They were burning buildings.
That's why I call it race riots. I'm okay with that, but I'm sure some
Right on.
people would very strongly disagree with me, but that's fine. I'll have them on the podcast. We can debate.
Sure. Yeah. I can't believe that if we're already past time. I don't know where the time went because it feels like we've only been here 7 or 8 minutes to me. Yikes.
I got to tell you, this conversation was really powerful, and I'm grateful for your willingness to share, because I think that takes a tremendous amount of courage and some guts to process that stuff. Being recorded, it's going to be listened to by thousands of people. I'm really confident it's going to be a source of strength and encouragement for a lot of people who hear.
Good.
And I'm glad you were willing to go to those places. So thank you, Dan. Thank you for your service. And I'll keep in touch with you. Hopefully we get you on again sometime soon.
Very good. Thank you.